I had someone once ask me on a televised debate for me to boil down that often complex criticism of Common Core, boil it down to just a simple soundbite. My reply was that I oppose Common Core because it erodes school district sovereignty, parental sovereignty too, takes it thousands of miles away to Washington, D.C. It restricts parental input, school district input, neutralizes potential by lowering the bar of expectation right on the necks of school kids everywhere. It's the limbo of lowered expectations. Now, last week was no exception. See, David Coleman is the president of the College Board and an architect of Common Core. He made drastic changes to the SATs. These changes aren't only going to affect public school kids, they're also going to affect private schools and homeschoolers like me as well. Joining me now to talk more about this is Kyle Olson from eagnews.org. Kyle, good afternoon. Why now? Out of all these years of the SAT being the way it was, why are they changing this? How are they changing this?
Well, they're changing it now because it's the enforcement mechanism for the standards. And so what's happening is we're seeing this consolidation of control to Washington, D.C. and the educrats in Washington and the standardization of the education system. And the reason that this is happening now is because they need the standards, they need the assessments in order to enforce the standards.
So is this going to make taking the SATs easier for kids? Will it make it? Because I see the Common Core math worksheets, and I kind of scratch my head and thinking if the SATs are going to be anything like this in reflection, how is it going to be easier? Is it going to be more difficult, or is it going to match the insanity of what we see right now?
I think it's just going to be more of the insanity that we're seeing.
Lovely.
I think one of the most dangerous and damaging changes is that they're making the writing portion optional. And so if there's a portion of the test that's optional, why would a student prepare for that? Why would they focus on their writing skills if they don't have to? And so it's that sort of change that I think will have a huge effect. And you're right, what's happening is that this is going to have a huge impact on private school students, on homeschool students, on charter school students, all students, even in states like Texas where you don't have Common Core. And the reason that that's happening is because when you align the SAT or the ACT in college entrance exams to the Common Core, then schools in Texas and homeschool parents and others around the country will have to teach the Common Core way in order for their student to do well on that exam.
So they're able to mandate Common Core without mandating Common Core. In order to even get into college, you have to take a Common Core test. That's the gist of it.
That's exactly right. And so, and that's what's so damaging about this and disturbing, is that they're able to inflict Common Core on families and on states like Texas and Virginia and others without actually having them adopt Common Core.
So they're just, wow, that is amazing to me. How is it that they're able to change these standards and force states who have outright refused this to accept these? I mean, what on earth, what can parents do at this point? Because it seems like if we push our school boards and we have our school boards vote against implementing Common Core, the state doesn't want to implement Common Core. How can the federal government then come and essentially overrule the state and say, well, tough beans, but your kids are going to have to learn it anyway if they want to go to college? How can we stop this?
Well, a variety of ways. They're doing it because they're dangling the federal dollars out there. That's the biggest way. But what parents need to do is they need to keep pushing. We're seeing bills being introduced to repeal Common Core all across the country. Our site just wrote today about Alabama, a bill being introduced in Alabama. And so it's happening all over the country. But that's not going to be good enough. What they've got to do is they've got to hold these state boards of education, hold their feet to the fire, not only get them out of Common Core, but get them out of PARC and Smarter Balance, the testing consortia, get them out of those, and basically claim that control back. And really what it comes down to is parents have got to hold those individuals accountable, but also their local school boards and their local elected officials. They have to hold them accountable as well.
Is there any common ground to be had between parents and colleges and some of these universities? I mean, obviously, some of these, especially the more competitive universities, obviously don't want to have their lowered standards. They don't want to have to lower their standards in order to accommodate the lowered standards of Common Core. Is there any common ground, any ally possible there?
Well, see, and that's the challenge, is with the SAT, that's almost, I mean, that's kind of the test, with the exception of the ACT, that a student takes in order to figure out how, where they fall in terms of preparing for a college. And so that's the challenge. But what I think should happen is in a state like Texas, where you don't have Common Core, they clearly don't want Common Core, is the state university system should stand up and say, let's create our own assessment to figure out where students are at. Let's create our own entrance exam, and let's see if we can get that sort of new type of test to replicate around the country.
I don't even like the arguments that I've heard against state-by-state assessments and measurements of academic performance, because ultimately it's all going to be the same with varying degree. I don't give those arguments against that any merit. Your thought?
Well, I think tests are important, but yeah, what we're seeing is this consolidation and of control and of choices for tests. And like I said before, when you have just a couple tests, then the curriculum is going to be aligned to those, and then at that point you really largely have a national education system, which is the direction that we're heading.
We got to fight on our hands.
And so I think tests are important, but at the same time, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we have a fight on our hands with this. Kyle, you've been doing such a great job in following this. We do have to get going though, but folks, you can find Kyle at eagnews.org. Kyle, thank you so much for bringing our attention to this. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Folks, quick break. Stay right here with me.